God bless you and God bless America. It's good to see you, Black Samurai. I'm so happy that you're here. Let me know if that this is coming in strong and that you can hear me. I'm in a different place. I'm closer to the Wi-Fi. So it hopefully everything's going to work well. It says that the signal is strong. So that's a good thing. So let's open up. Let's open up prayers for America. Tomorrow is the election, and we hope for the best for this country because things are not going very well for a lot of people. I don't know about you, but let's see. You might identify with what I'm dealing with. I I personally don't have enough money for food for the month. And and so I make pasta every night out of water, flour, and salt. Uh, and if a good soul, if I can get free vegetables from somewhere, that helps. Or I will eat rice and beans or something like that. And I also need surgery that I can't get at the hospital. Um, we know that you see the system is overwhelmed, and there's only so much money that and only so I should say so only so much money and only so many doctors. And there aren't enough doctors, and that's the problem. Insurance isn't paying for everything. So the system can't be overwhelmed, otherwise people kind of are told that the line is so long that it's going to be a year and I might die. I'm not asking for your sympathy, but I'm saying think about all the people in America, from the people of East Palestine, which Biden never visited. He never did anything for. We completely forgot East Palestine and the disaster that it is, and they are environmentalists. You would think that they would care about setting setting chemicals on fire. Do you think that it killed the fish, it poisoned the waters, it killed all the fish, it killed the livestock, and it poisoned the land? They didn't care about that. They didn't care about the people of Maui, who got $700 a piece, and they wouldn't get that unless billions more, another load of billions went to Ukraine. And then we see the people, the hurricane victims, who they're finding them dead because they live up in the mountains and they live away, and they're very self-sufficient, and they probably use less electricity than we all do. And families are being found dead from starving and lack of water. And there wasn't, Mayorkas came on and said that FEMA was running out of money and Congress would have to appropriate more money. Well, another set of how many hundreds of millions of dollars, like $400 million, went to Ukraine and the war in Gaza. And that went instantly. But FEMA was depleted, and we have several. I have pieces of footage of several of the people, the press secretary and several people in the administration, saying early on that the money, yeah, we're all set with taking care of the migrants that are coming over because we're taking it from FEMA. So people are dying. And of course, people of East Palestine and the people that suffered victims of the hurricane predominantly vote on the wrong side of the aisle. But what about the indigenous people of Maui? Let's not forget them either. Hawaii always goes blue unless the people of Maui, maybe, I don't know. I should check to see how they vote. But that's interesting that people in America and minorities and through Thanksgiving, the very poor communities, African American communities, that get help with food for Thanksgiving dinner were left. They got there ahead of time to get some food and the line was everything was already taken, and special meals were being made and was put on the local news about how, oh, instead of turkey, they made chicken and had all the different vegetables or spices that the migrants would like. And the poor African Americans, which 4 years ago, it was all about African American lives mattering, wasn't it? And all of a sudden it wasn't. And we see what's happening in Chicago, that the neighborhoods are um, being, things are being, let's see, the police are being defunded. So there's a lot of suffering, a lot of crime, and they're asking for help. And their communities are getting filled up, people that they do not know. And the mayor there, I forget his name, who's African American, who they thought would help them, isn't helping them. He wants to bring more migrants in. So if Black Lives mattered 4 years ago, why don't they matter now? And it's interesting that that Obama, when Hillary was running, he said to the Black community, he said to a Black audience, that if you don't vote for her, I will take it as a personal insult. And this time, remember 4 years ago, especially Black lives mattered, or the lives of Black men were being killed, right, by police. But now they're demeaning Black men because they're not supporting Kamala. And don't you think they have intelligence and reason? They have a reason. So they're important, and then they're not important. They're not important for the vote. So people are suffering, and it seems like Americans are being thrown away. The poor Americans are being thrown away. They only need us when voting comes around. Now they're expecting the white female vote because abortion is the number one thing. That's really the number one thing. Not being able to afford groceries. Sally Hochul, was it the governor of New York, who the poor Peanut and Fred, poor Peanut and Fred. Where they usually the liberals care about the animals, and where's PETA? Where are they? And these two animals, this shelter, this licensed shelter for animals that has rescued horses from being slaughtered. They're a licensed rescue. All these animals gave hope for children and people who are alone and isolated through the pandemic. And it's almost like there's a certain torture. It's like they are purposely torturing us. We learned about the beagles, whose faces were being puppy beagles eaten by the maggots. It's almost like they truly don't care about Americans. They don't care about people. They don't care to stop the dying. They claim the dying in the world, the wars. And Ukraine and Russia provided a lot of food for the world. They were the breadbasket of the world. And Africa is dependent on that. Guess what? They're not getting the food. And farms are being closed. They're claiming that the nitrogen from the farms in the Netherlands, there's too much nitrogen, that's bad for the environment, and so is the carbon. We just plant more vegetables. In fact, if you plant lentils, it absorbs the nitrogen out of the air, because nitrogen is essential for making protein. So the people that you're not sending food to because of the war that's going on in Russia and Ukraine, so they're not producing all this grain, neither the energy that the world is dependent on, fuel to keep people warm in the winter. You could, instead of shutting the farms and claiming there's too much nitrogen and carbon. Just plant more vegetables, plant lentils, send that to Africa, send that to parts of the world, people who are hungry. It's a very, very inexpensive crop and absorbs all that. See, nature takes care of it. And it seems that our leaders are doing everything that's contrary to the environment. Like, they don't care about people or the environment. It's only when it suits them. Seems like they're throwing people away. So tonight, I am a licensed minister, by the way. I don't know if anybody knew that, but I am. So tonight, we're going to say some prayers. And after this stream ends, I'm going to wait about a half an hour. And I'm going to have a stream about some things for you to think about for this coming election. Some things you might not remember. And we'll go through some clips. And I'm here because the Wi-Fi is a little bit stronger. So I started here instead of being in there. So we have a special backdrop tonight, the American flag. So here's a very good one. Fear not, for I am with thee. Be not dismayed, for I am thy God. I will strengthen thee. I will help thee. Yea, I will uphold thee with the right hand of my righteousness. I love you, Lord, my strength. The Lord is my rock, my fortress, and my deliverer. My God is my rock in whom I take refuge, my shield, and the horn of my salvation, my stronghold. I call to the Lord, who is worthy of praise, and I have been saved from my weaknesses and my sins. The enemies will not hurt me. The cords of death entangle me. The torrents of destruction overwhelmed me. The cords of the grave coiled around me. The snares of death confronted me. My flesh and my heart fail, but God is my strength of my heart and my portion forever. I lift up my eyes to the mountains. Where does my help come from? My help comes from the Lord, the maker of heaven and earth. He will not let your foot slip. He who watches over you will not slumber. Indeed, he who watches over Israel will neither slumber nor sleep. The Lord watches over you. The Lord is your shade at your right hand. The sun will not harm you by day, nor by the moon by night. The Lord will keep you from all harm. He will watch over your life. The Lord will watch over your coming and going, both now and forevermore. The Lord is my strength and my defense. He has become my salvation. He is my God. I will praise him, my Father's God, and I will exalt him. Nehemiah said, do not grieve, for the joy of the Lord is your strength. So do not fear, for I am with you. Do not be dismayed, for I am your God. I will strengthen you and help you. I will uphold you with my righteous right hand. Have I not commanded you? Be strong and courageous. Do not be afraid. Do not be discouraged, for the Lord your God will be with you wherever you go. Surely God is my salvation. I will trust and not be afraid. The Lord himself is my strength and my defense. He has become my salvation. I can do this through him who gives me strength. Finally, be strong in the Lord and in his mighty power. Dear friends, let's take a moment and ask God for strength and for courage and to descend upon America and the world, because the world needs the strength of God. Hello there, CB. The Lord knows that we need help and we need a miracle tomorrow for the people who are hungry, the people who are suffering, the people who can't afford to eat. They can't afford a roof over their heads. They can't afford to heat their homes in the winter. They can't afford to fix their homes or the windows so they can keep any heat they have inside the house. It's impossible to survive, and it seems, where are our leaders? Do they care? I was thinking, sometimes I think to myself, think of the things that make you happy. Think of the things that make you that you love. And I thought of this spring, and I go, what can't be taken away? What can't be taken away? And you don't need money to buy. And I thought, what if there are no flowers and it is winter? What if there are no vegetables because of winter, or we cannot eat, we can afford food? Or I could look up to the sky, because I love the blue sky and I love to see the sunshine. And I remember the spring, the winter is always gray and cold. And the spring, usually we start to see sunshine and blue skies, except there was a cover, a gray flat cover, day after day, and it didn't rain. When is this going to end? And when am I going to see even the shape of a cloud? It was just flat. I don't know if it was that way where you were, but it was occurring in Britain as well. And there's such a thing as geoengineering. And we were told this administration was going to spray the atmosphere to stop the sun, to chill things, because we're supposedly warming. And my seedlings didn't grow. I wanted to start a garden, but the seedlings couldn't grow because there was not enough sunlight and it was too cold for too long, so everything died. I need a greenhouse of some kind, but my home is not heated. I can't afford, even with fuel assistance, the price of energy is too high. And it's affecting my health, other people's health. More people die during the cold. We must remember that it's important to have affordable energy and affordable food. So I thought, well, what else? What if there are, what if the flowers don't grow? What if there isn't enough sunlight or carbon for flowers? Because anything that grows, everything that lives is carbon, and everything, all the plants and trees breathe carbon. They need it. I said, well, that every flower and everything that you've loved, every pet that you've had, every animal that has comforted you, they still are. I remember reading on Reddit, there was this woman who she had put up a picture of a black and tan King Charles Cavalier Spaniel. And it was a girl, and she said that her name was Bear, and that she died. And she talked about how much comfort her dog gave her, and how much she missed her, how much pain she was in. And I wrote her, and I said, her name is Bear. I've had dogs, and their spirits, their beings are welcome with me always. Remember, they exist and live with God. They always will be. They don't pass away. They're only physically not with us. We can't touch them, but they're there. And their love exists. They are eternal as you are eternal. I remember what I wrote had comforted her very much, and many people commented back at what I had said. Her name is Bear. She will always be. Everything that has passed will always be, because the Creator, everything came from the Creator. We are all divine. We are all royal children of God, and there's so much hate and division in the world. I was speaking to some people on Halloween. They were dressed up and talking about how the way this town used to be, and it was a little bit safer. And this past summer, I've been sexually assaulted in my own street, top of my own street. And on the other side of the street, somebody got mad at me because they insulted my house, had so many lights, and I said, well, I'm a woman who lives alone. And then he starts yelling at me and calling me believing lies of a certain candidate. And it's like, he was trying to pick me up, and I wasn't really interested. But I said to them that, the man was dressed like a ballerina, and the woman was dressed like, well, actually, because they don't really identify, but they're non-binary. And they said that, no, it's safer now than it used to be. And I didn't stop to say it. I go, maybe for I said, I'm so sorry what you've endured. And I'm so happy that it's safer now. And I told them about the town, and my singing teacher had passed. And I said, remember they said my singing teacher when I was telling you about, when he told me about the story of Jenny Lind, who named this town, actually gave it its nickname. And I said he was gay and he died of AIDS. And they got mad. And they got really mad. They didn't want to talk to me anymore. And then my cousin started the HRC, LGBTQ. He started that. And I said, in my world, I'm sorry, but in my world, we've always been accepting of everyone. And the people in this town have been very accepting. And I remember the first Pride March. And I'm very sorry for what you have suffered. And afterwards, I felt terrible. I felt terrible about myself. And I said, that's it. I'm never speaking to anyone anymore. How quickly people feel that it's sad that people out there feel that we have different communities, and that this community has suffered more than this community. And when we all have suffered, it's like, if you sit down with me, I'll tell you about my life, what I've endured and what I've experienced from childhood. And maybe, even though you're non-binary and you don't feel that you're a particular sex, a certain sex, you're not quite sure. I don't feel like I'm human. My mother insisted. Really, I didn't realize that you really, really believe this, that there was a UFO above the hospital. And a woman in the room saw it, and she had sweared that she really did. And then when a UFO came, she said she saw all over the house. And she said, don't go next to the window, because they're going to take you. They're going to take you. And I realized I have never felt like I was human. I always felt like I was an alien. I was treated like I was an alien. And I wondered, maybe that's why I can't communicate with people, because I never felt human. But I don't want to remove certain parts of my body and replace them with nanotechnology. So I feel like so I don't want to say this to any Democrats who will encourage me to dehumanize myself so I can feel like myself. So I started to feel really bad about myself, and I started thinking. I went back and I asked the people across the street. They have this big Halloween party, and I wondered what I did wrong. And then I started thinking. I said, "Wait a second! I just said my singing teacher and his partner died of AIDS, and they went through the beginning of the movement when no one accepted gay people." And they were really, really discriminated against. And I know the beginning when my cousin started it. And he said the beginning when they started it, because my cousin had marched with Martin Luther King Jr. And remember, it wasn't the color of the skin, but the content of the character. And that's essentially out of the Bible, that the Lord knows your heart. See, where is it? I have that. I must have taken it down. I know exactly what it is. There we go. One Samuel 16:7. But the Lord said to Samuel, "Do not consider his appearance or his height, for I have rejected him." The Lord does not look at the things people look at. People look at the outward appearance, but the Lord looks at the heart. That there is what Martin Luther King, when Martin Luther King said, it doesn't, our little children should not be judged by the color of their skin, but the content of their character. That's really where it came from, is that particular piece of the Bible. That all these things don't matter. And we have so many things that are, all of us have suffered greatly. And if we all sat down and talked about what we suffered, we would find so much in common. We would connect to our humanity. I'm sure even if you are non-binary, you're human. And the purpose, isn't it? The purpose is, even if you don't find the love of your life, the purpose of life is to connect with the humanity of others and not see what's on the outside. I remember my cousin said to me that, and he wrote a book, Bending Towards Justice. And he worked for the Clinton administration and the Obama administration, by the way. It's one cousin, another cousin. I find the pictures of there. She was going to be the first female journalist to interview Hillary Clinton, the first woman president in office. But this is another cousin. He said that we will have achieved our goal as a human rights campaign, but this was the beginning. When we get rid of labels, when we no longer say, this is a Black person, this is a white person, this is a Christian, this is a Jew, this is a Muslim, this is a gay person, this is a lesbian. When we stop using labels, I remember somehow that just saying that, oh yes, this is what it started with, and I didn't realize that labels are so important. Your humanity is important. And I was so grieved that I said, wait a second. They were upset when I mentioned my gay singing teacher and his partner who died of AIDS during a time when, his partner died, and he just gave up. He didn't take any medication. He just gave up. And I remember he cared about me more than I said, but Arthur's dying. He goes, no, don't worry about Arthur. He said, we want you to come home. If you stay there, you're going to die. He'll kill you. I said, but Arthur is, no, don't worry about Arthur. He was so selfless. And he didn't care that I was not gay. I was a straight woman identifying as a woman. He didn't care. He just cared about me. And I thought to myself, it's like if people don't realize how good people can be, if people discriminate against somebody because they're gay or lesbian or non-binary, doesn't matter, or transgender, doesn't matter. I thought, if people knew how selfless and good this man was. And he wanted me to move in with him when he was alone, but he died and refused. My sister was married at the time to a doctor in Washington, D.C., and he was taking care of AIDS patients. And I said, could you please call him and encourage him to go, have him take care of him. And when he called, he pretended he wasn't hearing what I was saying. And he goes, I don't know what you're talking about, and hung up. And then of course, he died. And I grieved because that are we so in our worlds that we don't realize that people before us have suffered, people that are standing around you have suffered, that we all have suffered. And it isn't about you you just forgetting about your own suffering, which I know you've suffered, understanding that we all have suffered. And that's how we can connect with each other, is that we all have suffered. And I went home and I turned on Leo Buscaglia. Leonardo's her name is Felice Leonardo Buscaglia, and Felice means happiness in Italian. But he went by Leo F. Buscaglia. And he wrote this book on love, and he was a professor of love, and he was also gay. And everyone in the audience hung, no matter if they were, you can tell that most of them were heterosexual, and they were hanging on his words. And he said, we've all felt despair. All of us have suffered despair. And he goes, isn't that wonderful? And he said, all of us have experienced great loneliness. And he said, isn't that wonderful? It meant that we're all the same. We can all connect to each other's humanity. And it doesn't matter if you say, well, when you listen to somebody's story, you might say, they've suffered so much more than me. I have no right to say that I've suffered. But when you think about your life and the degree, all these little times in your life that you've suffered greatly and been lost and thought that maybe your life, you might lose your life, you might lose the life of your loved one. You maybe don't recognize how deeply that maybe you can't really judge that maybe you've suffered just as much, maybe more, but it doesn't really matter. Don't feel ashamed and say to yourself, I haven't suffered. Look how much they've suffered. It's not a game. It's not somebody's going to get a prize who suffered the most. It's not about that. It's about the fact we can never measure what degree someone has suffered compared to us, and it doesn't matter. The wonderful thing, you can look at it that way, is that we all have suffered. We all know loneliness. We all know what hunger is. We all have felt great loss in our lives. And we can connect instead of being diverse, which is division, and breaking up in different communities. It's division. See, one day, right now, this community is high. Just like 4 years ago, Black Lives Matter. Now, especially Black men, now they're being demeaned for not voting for Kamala Harris. You see, once you're up, you're tomorrow. See, they needed the Black community, they needed the Hispanics. Now they don't need them anymore because they're, they opened up the border and at least 10 million people came in. So they don't really need us anymore. That's the reason why they didn't help the people in East Palestine. It's the reason why they wouldn't give $700 after they poisoned and people were in the water, getting away from the fire, like what happened in Pompeii. People went to the water, except they died of the smoke. They were being turned around after they were trying to leave Maui and their town, Lahaina, and they were told to go back and they died. And I'm not going to give any money of this administration, any money to Maui until we give billions more to Ukraine. And these are indigenous people. And then the hurricane victims. And how they're finding families, whole families dead from no water, no food. And they wouldn't allow Starlink, which would put up immediately by Elon Musk to get communication. And people who've lost everything they rejected for the $750 because there's no money left in FEMA because the money's going to the new arrivals. And people, like I've said so many times, there are only so many doctors. And isn't it great? Oh, wow, we've got healthcare for the poor, right? But Obamacare is very expensive for people. Depends on how much money you make. And it's even more expensive for people now. But what was it opened up to? Was it opened up to the people of America so everybody can have healthcare? Or was it opened because you knew you were going to open up the border? And why? So I thought to myself, what happiness? Where do we find happiness if there's no blue sky to look at? If we've lost someone that we've loved or our pet? If the flowers and plants don't grow because, yes, the atmosphere is, they said they were going to block out the sun, and certainly looks like the weather is funny. And heat doesn't cause a gray sky. He doesn't cause cold. Never did. And things don't grow right. And now they're saying that there was a study, University of Michigan, that home gardens cause more damage to the environment than farms. But they're closing all the farms. And the prices of vegetables are going up, are really high because you've got to fly them in from somewhere else, which is fossil fuel, or they're penalizing the farmers and not giving them loans. They need loans because it's very expensive. Because somehow it's not environmental. We're talking about they're going to grow plants, and plants take out nitrogen and carbon and all that stuff from the air. And in fact, they clean the air. So there are farms closing down across America. During the Depression, there were over 6 million acres of farmland. Now there's less than 1 million. And Mr. Gates and other countries are buying up the farmland. And because people are just selling their land, they're closing. And other farmland is being sanitized, and so windmills and solar panels are being put up. So is there going to be enough food to feed all the people, not just us, but the people that are coming in? How expensive is the food going to be? This is the reason why the food is expensive. Once energy goes up and there's less farmland, everything goes up. Everything goes up. And farms are being run by machines are picking the vegetables. So that isn't a job that we need other people to come in to do because we have machines doing them. So it doesn't make any sense. So this election is very, very important. It's important for the world because these wars have got to stop. And it seems like nobody's stopping them. They're just giving more money. It's giving more money to fuel the wars. They're not insisting on coming to the table and talking peace. It's, hey, deflating atheism. Hey, Black Samurai. No Way's thoughts. There is many scripture that explain God knows what is in our hearts, meaning our words do not matter, but what we hold dear in our hearts that makes God happy or sad. That's true. It's who we are inside. Remember, as Christians or those who believe in God, it is our example. We say that, well, they're sinners, and we don't want to accept someone who's gay in, or because I don't want to condone sin. But it is our example as Christians or those who believe in God that bringing people to God who don't feel that God exists, that God isn't there, who may be far away, or maybe not too far away, maybe have lost their way, no matter who they are, gay, straight, doesn't matter. No matter what they're doing, if we deem that they're doing something that's in the Bible is sinful, the best thing we can do is, as St. Francis said, is that the gospel should always be preached and sometimes use words. As Christ said that when I was hungry, you fed me. When I was naked, you clothed me. When I was in prison, you visited me. When I was sick, you comforted me. Lord, when did we do these things for you? He who does these things to the least of mine, he does it to me. So the least, who is the least? Anybody, everybody. The one you think is the sinner, the greatest sinner that you can think of, or the poorest person, or the wealthiest person, whatever, doesn't matter. Or anybody in between. You might think that they are the least. He who does these things to the least of mine, he does it to me. So we must see each other, in each other, that we are all, God is within us. He lives within us. We are his divine children. But it is to do. It is our example, is what brings people to God. We can preach at them all day, but they won't hear the words. In fact, it might make some people run away. But if you truly think that they've lost their way, live Christ's example. Live it. Do as he taught. Otherwise, as Christ said, that those who cry, Lord, Lord, I will say I do not know you, because you have not done my Father's will. What is my Father's will? He who does these things to the least of mine, he does it to me. What is the greatest commandment? You must love your God with all your heart and all your soul and all your strength. But I will give you a commandment no less great. No less great, which means it's equal, to love your neighbor as yourself. So God is asking us to love each other the same as we love him. We don't know. That's why he said, he who does these things to the least of mine, he does it to me. That's why he said, you love God with all your heart and soul, your strength, and soul and your strength. That's what I've commanded you to do. But I will give you a commandment no less great, to love your neighbor as yourself. That's why he who does these things to the least of mine, he does it to me. God does not ask us to love him. Oh, just give me honor and praise all day. Sacrifice to me. Just burn all the animals and just put things out there. Don't let the people eat it. Don't give me all the vegetables. Just sacrifice to me. No, if you give it to them, you're giving it to me. He asks us not to sacrifice. this is how we help each other come to God. That's why we're all here for, is just to help each other get to God. That was very, very small. I said to myself, but why are we here? I said, we're here to help each other get to God. It's a very simple thought, just thought by a child. But that's why we're here. That teaching, the teachings of Christ, that's why we're here, is to do. St. Francis that speaks by when he said, the gospel must always be preached, but sometimes use words. He's reflecting back to, he who does these things to the least of mine, he does them to me. I will give you a commandment no less great than love your God with all your heart and soul and strength. Love your neighbor as yourself. That's all the same thing. We must be the example. We must feel the love of God inside of us so great that it irradiates out of us. And the words come to our lips when we need to comfort someone with just the right words that might guide them. If we have God living inside of us, we have those answers. So I said to myself, there's less things. If there's no blue sky, if everything has died, what if I can't get to talk anymore? Because they said the animals, too much carbon, and the meats and all that stuff. What if I don't have an animal? What if the flowers don't grow? What if I'm living in a place where there are no flowers and no trees? What if, of course, I might not be living. I thought to myself, everything that has passed exists. All the flowers. In fact, there's even more flowers because the Creator created all the flowers. God created them all. Every animal, everything that you've ever loved, every person that you've ever loved, because He has given them life, they live. They always live. Just because the body is turned to dust doesn't mean they don't live. So the flowers, that which made the flowers and the beauty of this world and all that we love exists. It doesn't matter if they take everything away from us. And the sky is gray, and we live in pods, high-rise pods, and we own nothing, and things are just dropped off by drones, and we'll be happy. They can take it all away, and everything can be gray and darkness. But what do we have to love? If we have nothing to, yes, we do. God lives inside of us, and God lives. God is. The heaven is not above us. Heaven is. We just have a veil over our eyes. Heaven is right here. Everything that we've ever loved, the beauty that has come and gone, has been destroyed in this world. It's not gone because God exists. The Creator, that which created all of it, still is and will always be. We must remember what keeps us alive and keeps us going, what keeps us strong, and that God exists, and that God will always exist. He is eternal. Eternity, knowledge, and bliss. So don't be dismayed. Don't be discouraged. We know that the evil in this world is fighting much, much harder and is growing much more. That's why every time witch sacrifices, you wonder why evil is growing. Those witches that sacrifice that sacrifice animals, and they basically they give it to the demons. And the demons, basically you're giving it to the darkness. And so the darkness grows, keeps growing and growing and growing. Because people like to feel power, the ability to manipulate things. and have that kind of power, but little do they know is that when you sacrifice to a demon or you think you've bound a demon, that the demon ends up controlling you. In the end, they're playing a game and making you think you have power, and they're doing these little things, making you think, and then they stop doing it. And then you're broken. And then they throw you away, and you're lost in the end. The good, we must hold on to the good. We must hold on to God and know that there is more good than there will ever be bad. And God created all the demons that fell, all the angels that fell. Those are all creations. So they really don't have any power at all. The only one that has power is the Creator, is God. They can be blown away. God can blow them away in a moment. But there's a fight now, and evil is growing because they're fighting to survive. So the only way they can survive is if they amass more power, if they give more power to the darkness. But they will never win. You must know that they will never win. So we pray tonight, dear Lord, dear God, you are my strength, you are my rock, you are my shield. I will put on the whole armor of God. You will carry me through. You will carry the world through. Oh, dear Lord Jesus, please. Please be with us. Please watch over the election. Let there be nothing amiss. Please give people wisdom to vote wisely, to know the truth, to see that people are suffering. We need an ending to wars. We need the grocery bills to go down. We need the energy bills to go down. This is unnecessary, and it's wrong. We need leaders that care about us, that look at us like, I will do, and this is what I will do for you because I care about you. They need to care more than to keep wars going and to keep themselves powerful. But you see, they're amassing power and they're forgetting us. Well, one group, 4 years ago, Black Lives mattered, especially male Black lives. They don't much anymore. Other lives are mattering, but soon they'll find someone else that matters, some other group that matters. And then you'll be down here. When you thought you were going up, you're coming down. It's all about keeping power. So, dear Lord, be with us tomorrow. Be with us always. Watch over this election because the whole world, this election is important for the whole world, not just the future of this country. America is the world leader. People need to stop dying unnecessarily. We all die someday, but this is evil. This is cruel. By neglecting healthcare and food and energy for heat, they don't care. They don't care. Oh, dear Lord in heaven, fill our hearts with strength. Give us confidence and courage. Be with every single American tomorrow who goes to vote. Give them wisdom. Open their eyes to see the truth. To have compassion for each other. To know that people are suffering, not just one group or another, or yourself, but we're all suffering. And that they be guided to vote for a leader who truly cares, not who truly cares about one issue, but all of us. Safety, security, protection. If you care about women, then you don't want people who are violent or known terrorists, known rapists, known murderers coming into the country. If you care about women, but, oh Lord, open their eyes to see this. And if you care about women or people, everybody needs. Let them see that everybody needs to eat. Everybody needs healthcare. Everybody needs to be warm. Everybody needs to be happy, not thrown away. They're throwing us away. You need, dear Lord, please open the eyes of the people who are voting tomorrow to see the truth and which side compassion is on. Give us strength. Give us hope. Be with us in this world. We can't do it alone. So know, see, that strength, that God is always with you. God is in you. No matter what happens, they can't take that away. You are eternal. God is eternal. Everything that has ever been, that you've ever loved, is eternal. Imagine that you are every flower that's ever lived. The heaven is around you. Even though we have a veil over our eyes, we can't see it. You're walking through gardens of perfumed flowers, always. And everyone that you've ever loved and every animal that you've ever loved is there with you. All the love that you've ever experienced, anyone's ever given you, is still there. And if you have no one to love, God has always loved you. God created love. That's where all love comes from, even if you are alone. So, if there's one more prayer that we can read here. Tell me I've read them all. Let's go. Zip back to the top. Summon your power. God, show us your strength. Our God, as you have done before. Sing to God, you kingdoms of the earth. Sing praise to the Lord, to him who rides across the highest heavens, the ancient heavens, who thunders with mighty voice. Proclaim the power of God, whose majesty is over Israel, whose power is in the heavens. You, God, are awesome in your sanctuary. The God of Israel gives power and strength to his people. You are my strength. I watch for you. You, God, are my fortress, my God on whom I can rely. I will sing of your strength in the morning. I will sing of your love, for you are my fortress, my refuge. In times of trouble, you are my strength. I sing praise to you. You, God, are my fortress, my God, on whom I can rely. God bless you all out there. And feel God in your heart and pray for wisdom. Pray for wisdom, that we all have it as we go vote tomorrow. Pray and know and have courage and strength that God is with this nation. God is with the world. God will overcome this evil. He's with you. Pray that he be with all of us, and his wisdom and love be with all of us. And all those who are, I hear the evangelicals, a lot of people don't want to vote a certain way for a certain person because they are not perfect. But so many people are dying. Somebody who can prevent wars, stop wars, prevent, we hear of the rapes, unnecessary rapes and deaths of our daughters and children. Let's see, Alexander Berg said that about evil is allowed to prevail when good men do nothing. Well, if you don't vote, there's so many evils and so much starvation and poor people who are suffering. Lord, that's right. He who does these things to the least of mine, he does it to me. Jesus didn't say, only do to those who are perfect. If you vote the wrong way, and then people can't afford their groceries, they can't afford to eat. As he said to the lambs, the lamb said, Lord, when we do these things for you. And he said to the goats, he said, when I was hungry, you did not feed me. When I was naked, you did not clothe me. When I was in prison, you did not comfort me. We did not know you. They did not know him. The point was, neither knew him. But there are those that did these things when they did it for others. So if you cause a situation or let a situation to persist that you could stop, then there are those that will be hungry. There are those that will be naked. There are those that will die, that will continue to die. There are those that will be raped. There are terrorist attacks. Injustice will prevail in the courts. Weaponizing justice because you didn't vote for someone like you who is imperfect, because I know you're not perfect, but is trying to be, is trying their best to do the right thing for everyone. They may not be perfect, but you know in your heart that they're the one that's going to help us. And you know the side that we knew 4 years ago when we heard certain things out of it. But we hope out of their mouth that were just something was wrong in the head. But I still hope for the best. I always hoped it was still not going to be that bad. And they picked someone that clearly, when we heard them, we actually hoped that people were wise enough to see how bad that one was and what they have done by imprisoning, keeping people, black men in prison for marijuana offenses past their sentence for cheap labor for the state of California. They were paid 8 to 30 cents an hour. A black man that was put on death row, and his exonerating evidence that would free him, but this person refused to free them until the Supreme Court had to step in, and they still refused. You know who I'm talking about because they were a prosecutor. A black man. So they were innocent. Essentially, a low-level, non-violent crime shouldn't be kept as a slave. And slavery. And to bail out people who have burned down cities, rioters. We know the story of the, what's that kid that had the weapon that shot the two guys that were going to kill him? I forget his name. And he got off. But the two people, because he shot two people, one he killed and the other one blew the arm off. But they had weapons. They were running through the streets. They were burning everything down. One was pushing a big trash barrel of fire, pushing it into a gas station to blow it up. The two people that he shot were both pedophiles. And we're not supposed to say that word, right? They were both kitty diddlers. And interesting, everyone who's supporting the other candidate is all friends with P. Diddy. Noble people that can judge the other side. These people, she in Minnesota had a fund to bail them out of office, bail them out of jail. And then they went on to commit other murders and crimes. But they said, oh, I prosecuted drug cartels. No, you didn't. You prosecuted people for low-level marijuana crimes. You did not prosecute the drug cartels. And the guy that's running with her let his cities burn down, and they opened up the window. The wife said, oh, I opened up the window. I let the smell of the burning tires come in. They thought it was glorious. Oh, the country was burning down. Yet everyone had to stay locked down. And if you saw, there was a hotline. If you saw your neighbor outside their own house, they had a hotline for the neighbors to call to tell on them. So the people who are innocent, who are being traumatized, were treated as the prisoners, as the criminals, and the criminals set free. Do you want to live in this world? Kyle Rittenhouse, that's right. Kyle Rittenhouse. God bless you, and good night.